started by discussing the many physical aspects that can lead to irritation of the mind and the sleep processes. To be able to sleep well, we need to be relaxed in all phases of our existence.
Right.
If there's any irritation that can spark thoughts in the mind, or any irritation in the spine and the nerves, we might be brought out of sleep. We may be able to fall asleep, but 3 hours later we're brought out of sleep. If there's an imbalance in, say, the kidney system, it might be that we have to get up and go to the toilet that disturbs our sleep process. So the whole day was, the whole morning was looking at digestive imbalances, musculoskeletal imbalances, and then the preparation of good sleep around those certain things. The biggest root cause is normally a neck imbalance. Unfortunately, the head's too heavy for the neck, so often as soon as we have an accident, then we can injure the neck, and often without pain. We don't know there's something wrong till we have pain. But if there's stiffness in the neck, it means that the mind actually doesn't slow down into a slower sleeper state. So if you imagine someone that's really relaxed and they fall asleep very easily, but people that have a more stiffer spine, more irritated spine, this often puts them in a more hyper cycle of thought patterns. So they'll, of course, fall asleep. Everyone has to fall asleep eventually, but the mind might spark up very quickly because they don't get into that full relaxation. So the neck's always the main problem, so we need to focus on what is wrong with the neck and how to release that. We covered some emotional stress points at the front here, so everybody that you meet who's stressed will hold on to the front of the head, and that actually lowers the blood pressure and calms the person down. So we've taught the therapist to help release the pressure in there. And we also looked at liver imbalance. If a liver is, this is 5,000 years of Oriental medicine, but if a liver is too tight or too hot, what happens is we have changes in our emotional state. We can become angry, frustrated, resentful, and all of these things are kind of tension creating. So by doing some techniques that help to calm that and increase the blood flow in the area and soften the spinal connections with the liver, then often we take that anxiety away from people and we relax it down, and then quite quickly they often fall asleep in their own right. No. Everything we've applied today is basically a holding technique. So we use muscle testing diagnostics to find difficult areas. So we use a little bit of palpation where we're pressing around, but we also use a testing facility where we can actually get them to press on the liver, and we get a reaction in the nervous system that affects the muscle power. So by finding the weakness, we actually discover where the problems are. So today, for example, we tested the liver, we tested the gallbladder, we tested anxiety, and when these are knotted up and people are anxious, tight, stressed, they can't digest things, they can't relax, then we just do hands-on therapy, just a holding type technique. So we're not teaching people to go in and change anything, it's just by bringing up these problems to the nervous system and then holding them. Often this is enough for the body to let go of all the tension that's in the area. So that's what we showed them today. Acupressure is directed at specific acupuncture points. We now know that acupuncture is accepted around the world. It's used in most hospitals. Whether it's used for pain relief or anything else, the primary reason for these pressure points is to help flow in the body. So we have normally blood flow, lymph flow, thoughts flow, digestive flow, nerve flow. If they're all flowing, we don't know there's anything wrong. It's only when it becomes tight and locked do we start to feel problems. So we might feel pain, or we might not digest so well. That creates this tension in the body. So when it comes to insomnia, people always think it's an emotional, mental problem, but often it directly relates to physical issues that then irritate the body. So we use pressure on certain acupuncture points to help the body unwind itself and relax. Also, by doing this holding technique, we allow the body to feel somewhat comforted and allowed to let go of itself, because lots of tension is tied up within the emotions that makes the physical body tight, or their injuries that are tight that then make the emotional body tight. So just supporting people and allowing these things to relax means that most therapists can do this without much training, and the client gets to receive quite a deep therapeutic treatment. We also train them how to breathe right at the same time, because if you use deep breathing exercises, the heart rate goes down, the heart pressure, blood pressure goes down, and everything relaxes into ease. And when we have ease, we have sleep. Okay, well what we're doing is, before we do any of the holding processes, we test the body. So for example, if your spine is locked around the thoracic area of your mid-back, what this does is it tends to put the liver under a lot of pressure. So we test this by pressing on a muscle and pressing on the spine, and if there's a change in the power, we know there's a problem. The holding is then to support that area to allow it to relax, because often it could be that it's locked up from an injury 20 years ago and it's not let go of that injury because it's not had the, let's say, the comfort or the correct support to let go and go, okay, it's gone. The body knows your injury went 20 years ago, but it tends to hold on to things. So when we hold these positions, we either hold on to the liver, so the heat from your hand will help the liver processes, because often heats are helpful to get blood moving and lymph moving and stuff. So by holding certain different positions on the body, it allows it to let go of its anxiety, of its tightness. Well, you can't separate the two at all, ever. If somebody has a physical fault, they also have a psychological imbalance. The system works in harmony. If we have a physical fault, then that changes our chemical balance and our psychological balance. And vice versa. If we have an emotional state, we get very tense and tight and we show physical changes. So whenever a treatment is delivered on the physical level of the body, it will have a strong impact on the emotional. Example are, a couple of the people started to well up a little bit and cry a little bit in the treatment, even though they've not described they have a problem, even though they didn't know they had a problem. As the release happened, as the relaxation happened, things are let go of the body. Well, one without doubt, without question. Why? Because our clinics are full of people suffering insomnia that have tried the Western approach and find that it's not working for them, so they go searching for something else. So if we have a high rate of success in treating those people, it must mean that if we worked with the NHS in Western mode, we can have double the effects. Instead of splitting it, it's complementary. Every therapy is complementary, not alternative. It's not a choice. We go together and we can enhance the recovery. You have to remember that if someone has insomnia, they're leading themselves towards illness. And that illness will then eventually end up in the NHS's hands. So if we can treat it before and we can help it before, it takes pressure off the NHS. And that's why we're complementary. It's about adding. It's not about who's trained in what university and what they're trained in. It's about how effective is this therapy, and if it's effective, let's use it and let's work together. Oh, that's a very good question. You're asking me to be a bit arrogant here, and I don't like arrogance, but I would say around 80 and 90% effective, because we're treating the person on all levels. We're talking to the client, so if the client if it comes from emotions that lead to physical, then they can talk and express certain things while we're doing physical therapy, which releases them of an emotional state as well as a physical state. Or some clients don't want to say anything, which is fine. They just enjoy the physical relaxing. And the whole point of relaxation is to increase the blood flow, because when we're tense, we have little blood flow, and when we're relaxed, we have lots, and everything's at ease. So we have dis-ease and we have at ease. And what we're trying to do is lead everyone back to that at ease position. The barriers are the acceptability of, one, whether it's researched, and we can't research it because we don't have the funds to research it, but we have clinical evidence. So you have evidence-based practice, which is all research stuff, and then you have practice-based evidence. And every medicine known to man started as practice-based evidence. Clinics will deliver an intervention, a modality, and if that started to work, then we can apply some research and then we can make it more and more acceptable if the research comes out correct. So the challenge we have is getting the NHS to accept us as practice-based evidence before we come evidence-based practice, which is what they want. Okay, so we're here willing to offer this and say, let's do some research, but it's very difficult for independent private people to fund that type of research in the level that they want to see it to be accepted as a researched, clearly defined operation.